Greetings, loved ones. When one is talking of domestic violence, what comes to mind is spousal abuse. And in most cases, women are on the receiving end and they're subjected to physical, psychological, sexual, and emotional violence. However, the scope of domestic violence extends far beyond this belief to include child abuse and the effects that such abuse can have on a child. Today, we are going to continue to talk about the effects of domestic violence on children. But first, our goal is to get these messages out so those who are suffering violence can recognize their situation and get free of it, but also that those who are not experiencing domestic violence can recognize it in the people around them and help them to also leave the violence. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, hit the like button, and please share these messages with others because you never know, just by doing so, you could save a life. A family is expected to be a unit of peace where a child receives emotional care and benefits from the parents. It forms the background of their human socialization. The child is taught basic interaction strategies at home, and when a child's brought up in a family that does not respect children's rights, but abuses the child, abuses the spouse, abuses others in the house, the child's development will be negatively altered. All forms of child abuse have a long-lasting effect on a child. It could be physical, it could be sexual, it could be emotional. Emotional violence is registered in a child's life for a long period of time and haunts them for years. This influences how the child interacts with other peers. When parents are fighting in the presence of the children, the child does not know what to do, which parent to support, or who to call for help. The child becomes emotionally troubled. A study in 2006 by Anderson and Avalis, they state, "We are what we are socialized to be." This statement declares that if a child has been socialized in a violent family, chances are high that the child will develop certain attitudes towards violence and might become violent in the future. Children are profoundly affected by domestic violence. Infants, preschool children, and older children are negatively affected and portray different behaviors which stem from the family background they have come from. Young children exposed to family violence at a tender age display increased irritation, sleep disturbances, and excessive aggression because of the trauma they have experienced in their life. Being aggressive and not able to control one's anger is a sign in a child who is emotionally disturbed or affected by violence. This does not end in childhood, but goes on to affect the child throughout their lives. Children tend to practice what they see in television, in their home, and in the society in which they live. There's a study by John Bowlby who developed a theory of internal working models. So I'm going to share a little bit about this. It says, for health, social, and emotional development, a child requires the care and emotional attachment of their parents. This lack, in the case of domestic violence, causes a child's emotional development to be drastically affected. A child does not interact much with the outside world. They receive their comfort and their safety from their parents, from their home. Their mind is opened to learn from their surroundings, and in the case of a family suffering violence, the child begins to experience a lack of trust in either parent because they do not feel safe. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a dry mouth here. Parents are the ones the child expects to satisfy their care, their love, their emotional needs, and their safety. If the family is in constant violence, the child's emotional and safety needs are not met. These children can't trust their parents, and this has a long-lasting effect in the child's life. In later years, trusting even one's spouse might be a problem. In most cases of domestic violence, there is always the exchange of harsh words among the spouses or to the child. These words register in the mind of the child, and in the future the child might believe that this is the way to respond. When a family is undergoing domestic violence, both the parents are psychologically, emotionally, and socially unsettled. This then filters down into the child's psyche, and the child also becomes unsettled, never knowing when someone will explode, constantly in fear that something will happen. Neglect is the lack of providing for a child's basic and emotional needs. Parents in a domestic violence situation are usually unable to provide physical and emotional care to their children. Neglected children are depressed and emotionally troubled. They feel and they believe that they're not treated well by the people they expect to provide for these needs. It's almost like it's a violation of what they're expecting. Their expectation is that mom and dad will take care of them. And when dad is violent, either towards the mom or towards the children or both, the children are insecure and they feel, I'm trying to think of the English word. In Spanish, we would use the word violated. You can't trust them. It violates that trust that they have with the parent. So there's also a learning theory of development that I want to touch on. The development of an individual is affected by the socialization environment that he or she is living in. Children under the age of 6 years are constantly learning, and their character is constantly developing. They need emotional and social support. They need the stability in the home to make them become good human beings. If they're brought up in families with constant domestic violence, they lack the much needed care from their parents and end up emotionally troubled. When they are relating with other kids, whether in school or at home, they might be affected by the feeling that they're inferior because they're constantly hearing, you're no good, nobody loves you, nobody cares about you, I'm wasting my time with you. If you're listening to these things, you're stupid. In class, in the classwork, the children might not be able to learn or understand as fast as they should because their mind is in this sort of chaos. Their mind is distracted. They don't have peace. And to them, the world is not safe. During interaction with other children in games and social activities, these children may be withdrawn, or they begin to portray aggression, and this may lead to other kinds of negative results in the child's life. We need to work together and act when we encounter children and women suffering from abuse. The question is not if you will encounter a victim of violence. The question is, what will you do when you encounter them? You could be the person who saves a life. You could be the person who God uses to reach out and help somebody come out of the oppression they're suffering into a life of security and peace and health and happiness and healing. You're called. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. And those who suffer violence need those who love them and those who don't even know them to reach out, step out, and help them to have the courage and the help they need to leave before it's too late. This series is dedicated in honor of Gabby Petito, a young, bright woman whom the world has lost because of gender violence. Her story has touched my heart incredibly. If you're a victim of violence, I want you to listen to me. Okay? I want you to stop what you're doing right now, and I want you to listen to me. I want you to know that you are valued. You are loved. You are intelligent. You are beautiful. God does not want you to live in violence. He wants you to live free from violence in peace and stability and tranquility. There is a way out of violence. There is a way out. You're not trapped. It's not your fault. Someone who says they love you and then they abuse you is lying to you, and they will never change. So if you're a victim of violence, I want you to reach out to somebody today. If you're in a dangerous situation, I want you to call 911 and get the help that you need. There is help. For those who don't suffer violence, and even those who do, help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit that like button, and please share these messages in Facebook Messenger, in your phone messenger, in WhatsApp. Share them on your Facebook page. Share them on Twitter. Share them everywhere so that others can see them, because you never know. Somebody might see it and it could save a life. Tomorrow, we're going to continue to discuss the negative effects of domestic abuse on children. Until then, God bless you.